The Power Moms Network, empowering moms to lift the world.
Welcome. I'm Riley Karsh.
I'm Tova Kopan.
We are thrilled to bring you the We Go Boldly podcast.
Let's talk big burning questions, life changes, and maybe a bit of personal business.
Let's be bold and brave together. Are you ready?
I am. Here comes the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to We Go Boldly, the podcast. We are thrilled to have you with us today. We are about to wrap up season 11. I can't really believe it because we're actually recording so much in advance that it's like throwing off my whole sense of time in life, but that's okay. As you all know, season 11 is all about the unbecoming, right? Like letting go of things that have happened in our past, beliefs that we might have, ideas, behaviors, stuff that is just not serving us, and figuring out, how to move forward in a way that is really meaningful and purpose-driven for a happier, healthier life, I guess. So before we dive into today's topic, let me say hello to my co-host Tova, see how she's doing today, and welcome her to the show. How are you, Tova?
Well, I'm not as needy as your cat is right now.
Oh my God. He is like...
I'm watching the cat jump on Riley and jump off of Riley. And
yeah, he's got a lot happening today. He really wants to be on the show.
I think he has a lot of thoughts about limiting beliefs.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm good. It's what, like 3 weeks? Today's 3 weeks from the first day of school. Is that right? I believe it is.
We're 4 weeks because
You're 4 weeks. So like it had start. So yeah, so we are 3 weeks from the first day of school. And I feel like we are like, maybe that makes sense. Like, okay, we're here. We're settling in somewhat. We're remembering things like we should do homework, if we have it. Like, I'm okay if they don't do it like right away after school, because I recognize they might need a little like shake it out time.
Yeah.
But then like, let's do it. Like, we're not doing homework at 8:30 at night, 9:00 at night, like after a practice.
Right.
Like, it's happening before, and just like things like that. And even remembering to ask for homework. And I feel like that takes a couple of weeks because they don't often have homework at the beginning.
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe we're into a rhythm, dare I say, I don't know, just in time for like the Jewish holidays to then upend the rhythm.
Have days off and the activities going on and like, and like celebrating the holidays and whatnot. Yeah.
It sounds silly, but like I feel like that just kicks it all off, right? Like we have a couple half days in October and then days off in November and Thanksgiving, and you're just like, oh, okay, so there's not like that many normal weeks left between here and the end of the year.
No, and here in New Jersey we have Teachers Convention Week, which every year it's a surprise to me. I don't know why. Lily has been in school for 7 years, and every year I'm like, wait, what? The whole first week of November? What?
Well, and
it throws me off so bad.
This year for us, I guess because we haven't been using our snow days as much, and because it is a big election day, they're off on election day. So in the past, they've had half days, which I never totally understood.
Yeah, but we have a half day.
Now they're actually off. So we are going from one, they have a class on a Monday and then class on Wednesday, and that's it for the week. And that's just a wacky week.
Like, yeah, it like really, I get it from the school's perspective, the teachers, I want everyone to be happy, but it really screws my schedule. Like every year messes everything up, throws off my kids, throws off my work. It's just a real wrench in the plans. Let's dive into our topic.
Yeah.
So as Tova mentioned, we were talking about limiting beliefs today, and we're going to talk, we've talked about this before, but we're going to talk a little more in depth about what they are, how they sort of show up in your life, and what you can do about them. Tova, you did the research for today, so I'm going to turn it over to you to kind of kick us off and lead the way.
Yeah, and this is sort of a two-parter because our next week we have a guest on who's going to be talking about limiting beliefs. So this is like a two-part. And I just want to say before we jump into the um, definitions, which I promise we will do just very quickly, but that I feel like limiting beliefs are one of those, a lot of this season is about hearing that voice in your head that you think is fact.
Yeah.
And it's fiction. And, it was made up somewhere along the way. We don't know where it was made up. We don't know why it was made up, probably to protect you. Maybe you made it up. Maybe a family member made it up. Maybe they thought they were doing the best thing for you by telling you, like, get a real job. Don't have that, like, you don't need to do that. Like, I think about, and maybe it's because I was at our networking group this morning, but like, I think about the guest Sophie, who was on in last season, and she is last season, I think. Yeah. And she's an esthetician, but like first she went to Barnard. Like first she like got her 4-year degree at this like phenomenal college. And then she was like, oh wait, no, this is really what I want to be doing. And I think that like, thank goodness, she listened to the voice that told her what to do. And she didn't listen to the beliefs or maybe that passed down like generationally, like this is, you need to be a business owner or a doctor or a lawyer, like that it makes sense that immigrant families will hold on to these ideas. But thank goodness she didn't, because we have this amazing esthetician in the world doing these amazing things. My point is, I think limiting beliefs are one of those things, almost more than anything that we talk about, that we think of as being fact.
Yeah.
And they aren't.
Yeah. I mean, I say this to my kids all the time, and especially my tween daughter. Your brain is lying to you all the time. Like your brain is a lying liar face, and it's telling you lies to, as you said, Toma, keep you safe, but also like to keep you in the mainstream, to keep you in the box, to keep you in line with, everyone else around you, because that feels safe. That feels like where you're supposed to be. And frankly, the people that are the most interesting in the world are the people who don't sit in the box, who don't stay in the lane, who try new things, who experience new stuff and see what they like and don't like, and all of those things.
Well, and I think like you're saying, like, I think, safe doesn't mean out of danger in the traditional sense every time. It can mean, yeah, like not rocking the boat, not causing trouble, not having people look at you more than your brain feels comfortable, not doing something that's risky behavior. But like risky is also where all the magic happens. So
yeah, and it's also about being emotionally safe. We talked about this recently, and I'm blanking on when, but we talked about this recently about the difference between physical safety and emotional safety, right? Like emotional safety is something that comes up way more often than we realize. And limiting beliefs exist, I think, in large part to protect your emotional well-being.
So definitions.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. 100%. So a limiting belief is, it was right there. Here it is. A state of mind or belief about yourself that restricts you in some way. These beliefs are often false accusations you make about yourself that can cause a number of negative results.
I like that. I like the false accusations of it. Like that's so, because then you think about it like, why are you accusing yourself? I didn't do that. That's crazy.
I know. I really liked that definition.
Yeah,
and I liked how it talks about, it's not like false accusations that are there. It's not like something you believe to keep you safe. Like we've really been giving like limiting beliefs a lot of benefit of the doubt. And this definition is like, no, it is false accusations that have a number of negative results. Like they are bad. They are bad. And it can also keep you in a negative state of mind, hindering you from entering new opportunities or life experiences while wreaking havoc on your mental health. And one example that we're going to look at momentarily is like, I can't go out because I'm just like, I'm so down. I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling like I'd be good around people. I don't want to be around people. And it's like, the thing you often need when you're feeling that way is to be around people. Now, as an introvert, it might be to be around one person that provides you with connection. I'm not saying everybody needs to like go to a party to feel lifted up, but like, so maybe introvert is like, yeah, you still need connection, and your voice in your head is saying, I'm just not feeling, I'm depressed. I'm not feeling it. I don't want to go out, but that's actually keeping you feeling depressed and not wanting to go out. And I'm not talking about like clinical depression, obviously, but like, so it's not protecting you. And I think, one thing I read, and we're going to talk about it momentarily, is like, as we talk about how to overcome these things, it's important to look at, obviously our self-awareness, which we talked about a lot over the last couple of weeks, working on your own self-esteem, but also recognizing unconscious biases, because this can really impact both you personally, but also professionally, and how you move around in the world. And your limiting beliefs could be not just affecting how you feel about yourself. And it's interesting because I did see a number of articles that refer to them as self-limiting beliefs, which I think is trying to separate from like limiting beliefs that we project on other people, which are, maybe stereotypes is a good example of a limiting belief that you're projecting on someone else. But I think that the unconscious biases can work against ourselves too. And just one more thing, and then we'll give some examples, because I really loved a lot of these definitions. And one thing I found with limiting beliefs, and you're going to hear us repeat like, okay, and here's another definition, or here's another way to overcome it, is I think it takes those like aha moments to be like, oh, okay, that's how I'm going to think of it, or that's the question I'm going to ask myself to overcome it. And it's going to be different for everyone. So you and I really like that false accusation one. But here's just another definition. False beliefs that prevent us from pursuing our goals and desires. They can keep you from doing important things like applying for your dream job, finding the relationship you want, or leaving the one you don't want. Like these are bad news. These are not good. We don't like to like pass judgment on things. We're never going to say if food is good or bad, but these limiting beliefs are bad. I feel comfortable saying that. They may have started somewhere. The root may be somewhere that is good. Oftentimes it's not, but they're not good. They're not great.
No, I mean, they're called limiting beliefs for a reason, right? Like they are beliefs that hold you back. There are things that stop you from doing the things you want to do, being the person you want to be, living the life you want to live. Like it's not an exaggeration to say that limiting beliefs put you in a box and keep you there, right? Like whether you are aware that you're in the box or not. You have your backpacks. Apparently I have boxes today.
Yeah.
But when you get stuck in that thought process and that way of being, it becomes unconscious, right? Like you don't even realize you're telling yourself you can't do something or be something, or, wear what you want to wear, or like have a red lipstick if you want a red lipstick, right? Like there's so many different layers to this. Do not apply for the job, that kind of stuff. And that particularly impacts women in certain areas. Like, there's studies out there showing that like, unless a woman checks every single box on a job application, she's not going to apply for it. Whereas a man's like, well, I have 3 of these things, I'll just go ahead and do it.
I mean, to that end, I don't know if you're in this group, and I don't remember what group it was online, so I can't even ask you if you saw this. But somebody was talking about like applying to all these jobs and not getting them. And she felt like she was so qualified for them, but she was only applying to jobs where she matched every single qualification except maybe one.
Right.
And so she was applying to jobs that she was overqualified for. And she wasn't getting past the first interview because she was clearly overqualified for the job. Those job interviews are wish lists. And somebody finally was like, that's their wish list. That's not what you have to have in most cases. But a limiting belief at some point told her like, no, in order for you to be good at a job, capable at the job, you have to do everything. You have to be able to do everything that job says that you need to be able to do.
Yeah.
Some examples of these, in case you're like still don't know what we're talking about. I'm not good enough. So that might be like, I'm not good enough to apply for this job, or I'm not good enough to manage this project. I'm too old or too young. So I'm too young to be a manager. Like you're not going to think I don't have enough time. Well, maybe that one you actually will, but like it might more be like, I don't have time to do this course. I don't have time to invest in myself. I don't have time to put this down, to put this as a forefront, or, I would go to school and get a degree in something I want if I only had the time, but I don't have time. And
but I think that one even translates to smaller things when we convince ourselves and I'm not suggesting, let me just be clear, there are times where you don't have time. But
Yes.
more often than not, you can find 5 minutes, right? You can find 2 minutes. You can find a second to breathe deep. You can find, a way to listen to a meditation and go for a walk at the same time, right? Like you can find time for things that are good for you. And I was talking to, maybe it was a nutritionist. I don't remember, but I was talking to somebody and they're like, why don't you think you're worth the 5 minutes to write this down?
Oof.
And it was brutal and also like life altering, right? Like that's the question. Why don't you think you're worth the 5 minutes to do the thing or worth the year it'll take you to get through a course that you feel in your head should be 2 weeks, right?
Well, and I also think to that end, when you're saying these limiting beliefs, they're not necessarily true and they're doing damage. So you might not listen to podcasts and yeah, you kind of want to, but it's not that you don't have time. It's that you love listening to music.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're walking and you're in the kitchen, like all the time, and I love listening to music, but I also need to have like my headphones on sometimes. And I listen to books and podcasts when I'm doing that, like doing dishes or walking. And that's what I choose. But you might love listening to music during that time. That's fine. But by saying over and over and over, I don't have time, I don't have time, you have now convinced yourself you don't have time. You convince your brain, or your brain has convinced you, it's kind of like a vicious cycle, that you don't have time to do these things. When in all reality, you just really love listening to music during that time. And that's fine. That's great, especially if the music like has you moving your body or relaxes or gives you a special break. So you could say, I actually during that time, I choose to listen to music. And at the very least, you feel like I'm making a choice. And maybe you can go into why you'd rather listen to music than do this other thing. But you're also taking away the I don't have the time.
Yeah.
Because I think that is and potentially taking away the guilt of like, I should be doing this, but I don't have the time to do it. And in reality, you just like listening to music. And there's nothing wrong with choosing to listen to something, especially if it's causing you pleasure.
Right.
A couple more, and we don't need to get into all of these, but like, I'll never be one of the best. I'm not talented enough. I'll never be a great leader. I mean, these seem so big. I don't have enough money. But these are a lot of things that people say, and they just say them as if they're fact, right? Like this is just the way it is, rather than a fiction, rather than something that maybe your brain has created at some point. Like if you never think you can be the best on the team, then when you're not the best on the team, you're not going to be disappointed. Or when you work hard to be the best on the team and you're still not the best on the team, at least if you didn't try to be the best on the team, you can't be disappointed that you're not the best on the team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other thing that's important to mention is that these are beliefs. And for whatever reason, culturally, whether we're talking politics or, like day-to-day life, people have conflated the idea of beliefs and facts, right?
Yeah.
Beliefs are opinions. They're just ideas. They're not facts. Facts are things like the temperature is 64 degrees, right? Like that's a fact. I don't believe it. It just is. My thermometers, I don't know actually what the temperature is, but like that's an example of a fact. We can all understand that. A belief is, I think maybe, I like 64 degrees sometimes, right? Like these are beliefs, these are thoughts.
Right.
They're not facts.
Yeah. One thing I really liked, because I've never seen this before, was limiting beliefs come in 3 flavors. So limiting beliefs about yourself that make you feel like you can't do something or something is inherently wrong with you. And that could be about your age or a personal trait. I'm too big, I'm too small, I'm, whatever. Your feelings or emotions. That was the example I gave of like, I'm too depressed to do this. I'm too depressed to go out, that kind of thing. There's also limiting beliefs about the world. And these in a way are all limiting beliefs about that you have inside you, but I just like the way they split these up. Limiting beliefs about the world that make you feel like you can't do something because no one will let you. And I think that is something that can be pretty common. Like if only, the big belief at the top, before you drill down could be like, if only, somebody let me do this, or if people weren't keeping me from doing this, I would be allowed to do this, or I would be able to do this.
Yeah, I also think a lot of this stems from fear of judgment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, as I said before, I'm immersed in the world of tweens, as are you, Tova.
Mm.
And so a lot of tween behavior contains limiting beliefs based on what they think their friends are going to think about them or say about them. So maybe you won't wear the like crazy flower pants, right? Because you're going to get laughed at and judged, even though it's a big part of like your personality and who you are.
Right.
So there's a lot of, I mean, that's one very minor tween-ish example, but that carries over into adulthood. Like
Yeah.
I've talked to plenty of friends who are like, I can't wear that. It's too young, or it's too old, or it's too that, like those kinds of things.
Yeah, exactly. And then prejudice, they talk about like people being racist and people being sexist. And I think, we are not going to delve into this right now, but there's a wonderful book who I really feel like I need to look up so I know the name of it so I can recommend. I believe it's called The Sum of Us, but I will find it. But it talks about um, it talks about that a lot of obviously prejudice and racism and sexism and all the isms hurt the people that who are being prejudiced against, right? The white person isn't necessarily isn't the only person hurt, but the fact is, and that is what it's called The Sum of Us, and it's by Heather McGhee, and it says how racism hurts everyone. And I think it's just important to recognize that, like, if you're holding beliefs that you think are fact, that are fiction, and even if they're about other people, there's a good chance they're keeping you from reaching your goals. We see this. Hopefully we didn't see it in November. We'll find out. You already know as you're listening to us. But you see people vote against their own interest all the time. And people make decisions against their own interest all the time. And, people don't join unions because they think lazy people are in unions. And that's just believing things that aren't true. And so prejudices that you might have out in the world are negatively affecting, are actually acting as a limiting belief for you and are negatively affecting you. Now, we'll move on. Obviously, that's not the only reason to how it affects you isn't the only reason to address your own prejudices. But if it's something that gets you moving.
Right. Yeah. I was just going to say that. If it's the thing that sparks you to change,
yeah,
awesome. Do it.
Yeah.
It's in an ideal world, everyone would recognize why prejudice is bad and that like it's not good for the other people or yourself. Yeah. But in the real world where people are somewhat selfish and self-centered, right? Like if this is the thing that makes you realize you need to step outside those boxes, then do it.
Yeah, exactly. I thought this one was interesting, being special. So like most of the examples they say in the article, and I included it because it's like most of the examples until now have been about limiting beliefs which cast ourselves in a particularly negative way. But sometimes limiting beliefs can make us delusionally positive about ourselves. And I think that it's not totally like, I think if you really get the root, it's still a negative feeling about yourself.
Yeah.
Obviously. But we're talking about like kind of the initial look at a limiting belief. And I do think that there are some that are like, the example they gave was like, my music is just too eclectic for people, or too, wasn't eclectic, but too something for people to understand. My art is just too outside the box for others to appreciate. And maybe that is the case, but if you want to make as a career as an artist, you probably need to figure out a way to get your art in an art gallery.
Right.
Whether people understand your art or not. Right. And if you're walking around the world going, you're never going to understand my art, or that's not the way you should interpret it, you should be interpreting it this way, and I can't let you have this piece if you don't really understand it, you're holding yourself back.
Yeah, I think the other way that this shows up is if you think you're like the only one who's ever had a particular experience, thought, or feeling, which is really nearly impossible. Because there's too many people in the world. And so if you think somehow you're special in that, like you're the only one who's ever suffered in the way you're suffering, or any of those things, it keeps you from reaching out, right? It keeps you from allowing other people to have a thought or feeling or opinion about whatever it is you're going through.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is a really important point, and it can make you feel really isolated.
Yeah. But it's self-isolation, right? Like it's not the world is, it's just to be clear, this is a belief, not a fact. The world is not telling you you're alone in your feelings. No one has ever experienced what you've experienced. That's just not what's happening, but it is what you're telling yourself.
Yeah. Yep. The last genre, I suppose, of limiting beliefs, and then we'll take a quick break, is limiting beliefs about life that make you feel that you can't do something because it's too difficult. So once again, these are all limiting beliefs that kind of start within you, but I like how they break them out. And one could be like, I missed the boat. Like I had a chance to do that and now I missed it and I can't do it ever again. Like, and I think that's something that it's really easy to like ruminate on what could have been and what we wanted to be. And so it's hard to recognize when it's time to let go of something. But often we need to let go of that thing so we can see it's that doors and windows thing, like a door shuts, a window opens, a door shut, another one. But if you're just staring at the closed door, like in my mind, missing the boat means you're just like either maybe you're staring at the door, maybe you're just staring off at sea and you're just looking directly where that boat was and you see it going away. And you don't realize that if you turn one direction or another or around, there's all these other boats and there's a carriage and there's a train and like there's so many other things. And I think that, I think a lot of these, and we'll talk about this very soon, but a lot of these come from this place of like, maybe I'm not worthy for these things and I'm making up all these stories. But I think that's a very popular one, as is time. I'm too busy.
I think that's one of the most popular. I'm too busy. I'm not good enough. Those kinds of things. Nobody will like
and me. I think that like there was a culture for the last 30 years, 20 years, 10 years. I don't know when it started or when it ended or if it's still going. I ignore it and I don't follow people that have it. So my social media doesn't give me this nonsense anymore. But it's like we all have the same 24 hours in a day. And so like in addition to you being super legitimately busy, you now feel crappy that you are not doing the same things that Beyonce is doing in that time. And listen, like Dolly Parton, she wrote 2 amazing songs like on her drive home from somewhere. Like we are not all Dolly Parton, and that's okay. Like, she needs less time to be amazing, but like, she also doesn't have kids.
Yeah, she needs less time to write a song, but that doesn't mean she needs less time to do the laundry or like. Right. I mean, I'm sure she doesn't do her own laundry anymore, but and no shame about that. If I could stop doing laundry, I would.
100%. But like. Beyonce has more hours in her day in the sense that she is not, I'm guessing. I always use Beyonce just because I really hope that she does spend money on these things. Like Chrissy Teigen talks about like the support she has.
Yeah.
Like she has, her mother lives there. I think she has multiple nannies. I mean, Mandy Moore talks about, because people will be like, how do you do it with 2 kids? And she's like, nanny. We have a nanny. And my mother-in-law is here all the time. Like, and my husband and I have both very high demand jobs, but are also flexible. So between a nanny, babysitters, my mother-in-law, and us having flexible jobs, like
and a boatload of money.
And like, yeah. And being able to like throw money at a problem. Like last week, we tried out one of those meal subscription services. And I haven't done that for a couple. It was Every Plate. Who wants to sponsor us? Does Every Plate want to sponsor us? We really liked it, but I hadn't tried one of those in a couple years. And it was a free box that someone had posted about. And they gave me a free box. And I'm going to try to do it at least once a month. Like financially, I don't think I can do it every week, but it was so nice. Like I could give the instructions were easy to follow. I could give the kids things to help with. They mostly like the food. I mean, my youngest still just wanted chicken nuggets, but whatever. But but like if you had somebody, pre-cutting the food for you and like doing all of this stuff for you or shopping or, I'm not going to pretend that I have been too busy. I was trying to explain to the boys yesterday. I was like, I have been meaning to put an Instacart order in. And I know I'm privileged because I have somebody else doing my grocery shopping and then delivering it for me this week. It has taken me 3 days to put in that Instacart order because I kept thinking, as soon as I finish this one email or this one thing, I will sit down and do my grocery list. And it's the same thing every week. This is not a heavy lift, but like I just, that thing would lead to the next. And I was explaining to the boys because they're like, are we getting milk soon? Are we getting cereal? And I said, it's not that I don't have the time. It's that recently I have been too distracted. I have been just moving from one thing to the next too quickly in my brain. But if somebody else was doing that. So anyway, time is a big one.
Yeah. Speaking of time, we're way behind in taking our first break. So why don't we go ahead and do that? And we'll come back and start talking about causes for limiting beliefs. We will be right back after this break, everyone. Well, hey there, dream chaser. Are you ready to make the next 12 months of your life unforgettable? Introducing the Year of You, a groundbreaking new goal system group that's about to redefine the way we approach personal growth. Join us with a community of like-minded individuals committed to unlocking their full potential. With expert guidance, personalized strategies, kind-hearted accountability, and a supportive network, the Year of You is more than just a goal-setting group. It's a whole movement. Don't just dream about it, achieve it. Click in the link in our show notes, or go ahead and visit us at goboldlyinitiative.com/year of you to learn more today. Let's embark on a transformative journey together towards becoming the best versions we can be. The Year of You, where your goals become reality. Okay. Welcome back to the show. Before the break, we were sort of explaining to you what limiting beliefs are and aren't. Let's talk a little bit about what causes limiting beliefs. And as you might imagine, limiting beliefs often form in early childhood. They can form later, absolutely, and do. But I think those real deep, nasty ones often come from childhood. And
as the best things do.
Right. And we can look at them, and we talked about this a little bit in the beginning. We can look at them and see that it's your brain trying to protect you from some sort of future harm, pain, discomfort. And things that can trigger that are fear, imposter syndrome, and past experiences. So, I think when we're kids, a lot of our family dynamics create these limiting beliefs. A lot of our environment creates these limiting beliefs. Certainly personalities, temperament comes into play here. Particularly as to the types of limiting beliefs, I think that you wind up with. And then, traumatic experiences can create some limiting beliefs as well.
Yeah. These causes are pretty straightforward. As you said, like some things that your families believe in. And I think though that depending on the type of family that you're raised in or the values and beliefs that you have, there is often things. And normally I learn about these things while reading or watching some sort of documentary that like, this is just the way it is. And you truly believe that what you thought was a fact about life was just a story being told in your community or a story being told in your family.
Yeah.
And those are particularly hard to break down because you're not only going against what your mind is telling you, you're probably going against what your parents have told you, what your extended community has told you, maybe what the whole structure of the community has been built on. And I think that, some beliefs are really great. And I don't want to pick on like religion, but like some of them are great and some of them do wonderful things for people. And depending on how families or communities take those and use them could lead to believing a lot of things that just aren't true.
Yeah, I think really what you're getting at is that limiting beliefs can be used to manipulate you into believing things that are not true. Certainly when we're talking about things like prejudices, limiting beliefs can be used to control and manipulate people in mass. And we see that happening now. I'm just gonna, say the thing. And particularly if it's something that you've been taught to fear or something you've been taught is um going to harm you in some way, even if it's like not. And those things get reinforced with media, culture, your environment, all, religious groups, different things.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing is like, depending on where you are, you might not be getting opposing information.
Yeah.
Right. And so,
well, and if you're getting your information from the internet, you're not getting opposing information because that's how the algorithms work at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. So you could be living in a world and then that information is also being shown on social media to you. And so you're just seeing the same thing over and over again. But I'm even thinking like, my kids, because of where we live, which is a fairly diverse community in the not like race diverse, but like, I don't know if my kids, I won't know who my kids' teachers are voting for. You can't necessarily tell. My son is now in 7th grade. He's learning civics, which I have to say I love because I always hear politicians talk about like kids don't know civics anymore. But like, and the only thing that the teacher said in the back to school night was that, your kids are going to come out of 7th grade actually knowing more than a lot of grownups do about like how the electoral college works and how elections work and all of this stuff. And they're learning all about civics and it's great. And I was talking to my son and he's like, I really want to know who my teacher's voting for. And I was like, you really don't, because there is a chance that your teacher is voting for somebody that you don't want them to be voting for. And you are going to really struggle learning from them from that point on. But my point is, I live in a community where, for the most part, there are teachers who have made this exception to the rule, unfortunately. For the most part, teachers are not also pushing their politics or their beliefs or their religious beliefs on the kids.
Yeah.
A lot of people are raised in communities, even going to public school, where that's not the case, where those things are being pushed on the kids. And so, if you're going to a public school and you're being told this is the way it is, you're going to assume that like, that must be true because your teacher at the public school is saying that, not realizing that this is just a bubble that you're living in. So these are, I think, very, very hard. It's what makes limiting belief so hard to find your way out of sometimes.
Yeah.
So how do we identify limiting beliefs? This is hard. Like everything this season, because it takes a lot of self-reflection and self-awareness. I think just starting to reflect on your own behavior and what guides your behavior, like spoiler alert, look out for this in the homework, but like reflecting on your own behavior and trying to figure out maybe like why you made a decision. Like, what was the thing that got you? Whether it's something that you did this week or something in the past. Like, what was the thing that guided you to make that decision? And I think that's a good start. I think also writing down things that you really believe, whether it's just like it says write down your beliefs. I took this from an article and I chuckle about that because I feel like that's quite the brain dump. But if you've never done a brain dump about something like this, it's fascinating where your mind can go. Like, write everything you believe about yourself. And then you start writing stuff down. And it's interesting what starts coming out if you really let yourself go.
Yeah, I think this one is super hard because like if you just said to somebody, hey, write down your beliefs, I don't know that people would even know what that means. So really it's like, what do you believe about yourself? Like, I'm a good person. I'm a kind person. I'm a person who loves dogs, right? Like, what are the things you know about yourself? And like go, and then like the next step of that is to kind of go deeper into, I believe I deserve to be happy. Like, those kinds of deeper thoughts. And also you can write down your thoughts about the world around you. Like, I believe that people deserve equal rights, right? Like, I believe that anyone should be able to marry anyone if they want to, consensually. I just important caveat.
At an age appropriate.
Right.
Age appropriately.
Yes. I think it requires that's a process that was going to require time. So like you can start and stop, that kind of thing. Like it's not like you have to do it all at once.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those things that like pops into your head too sometimes. Like as you start this process, then you'll be like, oh, wait, why did I get that drink order? Or like, why did I know there's definitely times where I'm like, I bring limiting beliefs about money into things. Yeah. And it's like, no, that dollar is not going to make or break you, friend. Like, but the amount of time you just spend and energy you spent on that is, if you spend so much time and energy on ruminating about the cost of something when there's a $5 cost difference, right? That's what's going to break you, not the $5 cost difference. Like, but why do I do that? And where is that? So just like, I think, if you have an ongoing kind of brain dump, and you can start with saying start with nice things about yourself, right? Yeah. Like, please.
Yeah, that's why I was saying, like, I'm a kind person. I'm a person who shares food. I don't know, like the good things that you do.
That is nice. I like when people share food. And then I think the other thing is, and this was an interesting comparison, is make a list of things that are challenging to you, right? Like things that maybe not things that are quote bad about you, but things that you find challenging to do. I was just at the networking group this morning, and Tony, the painter, who's awesome, before he left, he's like, I just want to say, he's like, when I first joined this group, it was oh no, he didn't say it. The head of the group. So I want to acknowledge Tony, because when he first started, he would read on his phone, he'd have a little script that he would read every time he introduced himself, because he really wasn't comfortable being in a group of business owners, kind of putting himself, he's a painter, he paints houses, but he owns now a successful business where there's other people painting houses, right? Yeah. And when he first started 2 years ago, he wasn't comfortable talking about himself, and now he is. And it's been very cool to watch that evolution. And he's like, I still don't like doing it, but he can. And I think that understanding our challenges and then kind of understanding where our beliefs and our challenges, or the things at least we think are challenging for us, run into each other, can help give us some insight into how our limiting beliefs show up.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that those things can apply to anyone at any time, right? Like when I first joined a networking group, I don't know, ages ago, and I had to do my little blurb at the beginning, I was terrified. And because I had told myself the story I told myself about myself is that I wasn't good at public speaking, and people weren't going to take me seriously because I was younger than everyone. And then, like Tony, a year into it, I was like, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, everybody buy my stuff. And, and now I'm a co-host of a podcast, and I've given speeches in front of hundreds of people. And my goal, of course, is to speak in front of like thousands of people. So it just shows you that these limiting beliefs are beliefs and not facts, right? Like you can do whatever you put your mind to.
Yeah. And I think also like a lot of the challenges are, I'm not good at this. I'm not good at that. Like when you start writing down challenges, and I think some of them are, we talked previously about how I have given my one son some like unrealistic, like to-dos around the house for him. And when he's in a calmer state, maybe not the first month of school, because he and I were talking about how it's hard to hold it together the whole day at school. And so then he comes back and he has a task that would require him to like stay focused and hold it together. It's just too much. So, but we were talking about, he described, he's like, do you have tasks for me, or have you worked on a to-do list that won't, I forget what he said, like set me to implode or something like that. Like, and, over the next few months and years, as he grows, it's going to be really important for me to help him identify, of these certain tasks, what are the parts that, like, it's not that he's bad at organizing, and I don't want that to be a belief that he takes with him forever. Like, it's that he doesn't put a high value on keeping his drawers organized. Like that's just not something that's important to him, but he's not bad at it. He could probably do it if he wanted to, but it would just take way too much energy. Like I think that he would be very quick to write a challenge of like, I'm not good at organizing things. And it's like, are you not good? Or is that just not something that you value? And so you haven't put any effort into it. I'm not saying you need to be a super organizer or super organized, but let's not carry around beliefs saying things that we're bad about ourselves when it's not necessarily true.
Well, yes, but also, yes, and let me say, we do a lot of moral judgments based on our ability to do certain things, particularly cleaning, your appearance, organizing, tasks like that. And we often internally judge ourselves on a moral basis. I'm good, I'm bad, that kind of thing. And there are people in the world who are not great at organizing, right? Like that's just not their jam. And yes, I agree that they haven't put value into it, but also it just may not be the way their brain works, right? Like their brain doesn't work in that fashion, and therefore it's harder for them to organize things. There are people in my life where this is 100% true. And it's not because they're bad people or they're bad at organizing. Their brain doesn't like it. It doesn't work. It's not happening. And so you have to learn ways around those things to like accomplish whatever it is that you want to accomplish.
100%.
But it's not a moral judgment.
Yeah. I think figuring that way out, figuring out that path of like, okay, what am I actually saying about myself here? And do I care? Like, how much am I caring with you? Because that's the other thing about this whole season, right? Like, we've been talking about the things that you carry in a box or in your bucket or in your backpack, all bees, oddly enough. I think something really important to remember is it is okay to just not care about that thing and let it go. Like, I'm going to let that go. I don't need to be the top organizer of the family. Like you said, you're letting go of the moral judgment attached to it. That's fine. Let's move on. Let's let it go.
I haven't let go of the hope that, there will be more organization in my home, but I'm not judging anyone morally for it. We need to take another break.
Yes.
So why don't we do that? And then when we come back, we'll run through this list of how to overcome limiting beliefs, and we'll get a little bit into that. So we will be right back after this break, everyone.
Hey there, pod family. Have you ever wished you could stay in the loop with a little slice of transformation and inspiration delivered straight to your inbox? Well, you're in luck because now you can. Introducing our fantastic newsletter, your VIP pass to all things exciting and informative. Join our community of growth-minded souls. Get the hottest topics delivered right to your inbox. It's quick, easy, and totally free. Just head over to our website at goboldlyinitiative.com and sign up for our newsletter today. Don't miss out on the next big thing. Stay connected with us. Subscribe now and get ready for some big, bold love. All right, so welcome back. So we are going to jump in to overcoming limiting beliefs. The first step is really what we just talked about, which is identifying them. So you figure them out. Okay, these are some of my limiting beliefs. Maybe let's not start with all of them at once. Yeah. Start with one at a time.
It seems overwhelming.
Yeah. Then I would say, these are going to be repetitive because they kind of came from different articles. And I found this really interesting article that was like life coaches advising other life coaches and therapists and psychologists all kind of getting together and giving advice to each other. But I just want to give you some options. We both want to give you options because whatever clicks is the thing that's going to work, right? Yeah. Like not everything is going to work for everyone.
Yeah.
So I like this idea of assessing the accuracy. Like we said at the very beginning, limiting beliefs are false accusations. So let's look at them and assess how accurate they are. And I know the next step is positive affirmations, but we're going to save those for the end because we're not there yet. But there are a lot of different ways that you can assess the accuracy of something. And there's a couple questions that I particularly love. One is, what if I'm wrong? Like, what if this wasn't true? What if this limiting belief I've been carrying with me is actually just wrong? And, you know, that is not necessarily getting to the root of your limiting belief, but it is also taking some of the power out of the limiting belief. Because it's like, well, but what if it just wasn't true? And in the same vein, and then you can share some, because this is just my favorite, I think, with like almost everything that we've talked about this whole season. How is this belief serving me? Like, is this helping me? Is this moving me ahead to my goals and my dreams? As we know from the definition, unlikely. These limiting beliefs are unlikely to be doing those things. They are false accusations that are having negative results. But we probably need to take the time to say, how is this belief actually serving me? Because that is, I think that was like the big one for me as I was reading this list of like, oh, it's not.
And I think if that doesn't resonate with you, because sometimes the like serving me language is hard to stomach for people, I think, the question could be, is this belief helping me get where I want to go? Is this belief something that is assisting in my happiness, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you can change the words. The question is, what is the belief doing for you, right? Like, why do you have this belief? Like, what is it helping you with? Anything? And it might be it might be that it did help you at some point, right? Like maybe it helped you get through a really horrible experience in middle school where you needed to fit in, and that was like important for your mental health. And so you adopted beliefs that like all your little friends had. Maybe it kept you safe in an abusive home, right? Like,
right.
Maybe it did help you. And we've talked about this at length this season. You can thank your brain, like, thanks. That was awesome. We got through it. Now we can let that belief go because it's not really true. It served its purpose and it's time to move on from it.
Yeah.
So I think it's it's okay to recognize that something did serve you at some point and no longer is. And by that we mean it's not helping you anymore. A couple others you have here on your list: create alternative beliefs, right? So it's along the same lines, like think about ways you might be wrong. You can you can think about like how something about, I don't know, your appearance. Like if I, wear band t-shirts in my 40s, like people are going to like not take me seriously. And you can think about ways that you're wrong. Like, I don't know. I was like, I had that belief for a little bit because I don't know, some stupid TV show told me it once and I like got stuck in my head. And now I love band t-shirts. So whatever. You can, I like this one. It says mirror up. But if you talk to somebody else and ask them to repeat back to you what they're hearing, you can sort of hear sort of the absurdity in whatever it is that you're saying, right? Like if you can hear the language you're using, if you can hear the types of limits you're putting on your life from somebody else, it can be helpful in thinking, oh, maybe that's not accurate. Maybe it's not the truth. Whatever the truth is.
I think this is also, not to like do a little shout out for ourselves, but I will, where something like a women's circle helps, because not all your friends are going to be like, hey, let's sit down and talk about our limiting beliefs. Because that's an interesting conversation to have. And I mean, Riley and I will, but and that's why we have the women's circle, right? Yeah. So that you can join us and do that as well. Because I think that having that conversation of like, what is happening with our limiting beliefs, and like, I both mirroring it back and forth, but then also I love this idea of looking, even if you're just writing it down by yourself, at looking like what assumptions are being made by that limiting belief. And I think that there's a lot of assumptions. Like if we go back to the one of like, I'm not good with money, right? Like, okay, we're assuming that you need to be good with money. You're assuming that everybody else is good with money, probably. You're making all of these assumptions. And I know a limiting belief with me and money was something that I think somewhere inside of me, I was really afraid of what would happen if I were financially successful, because I was so sure that I wasn't good with money that I wouldn't know what to do with it if I got any. And then I suddenly realized there's financial advisors. And I don't even know that I am bad with money. I'm just saying, like, I don't have to be good with money. There are financial advisors and they can tell me what to do and they can tell me where it goes and they should tell me what, and in obviously that might be being good, quote, good with money by using a financial advisor. But like, I'm making all of these assumptions in the statement, I'm not good with money. And, I think you can kind of like poke holes in your own beliefs by saying, like, what is this? What am I assuming by making this statement?
Yeah. And you can also, like, what does that even mean? I'm not good with money.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, that's the question to ask yourself. What does being good with money mean? Right. Does it mean never spending money? Does it mean spending money only on certain days? Does it mean not, making a certain amount of money? Like, it could mean any number of things to anybody. And that's the same with all sorts of limiting beliefs, right? I'm not good at public speaking. What does good at public speaking look like, right? Like, is it I'm a keynote speaker at every major conference I've ever wanted to be? Or is it like, I can get up at my networking group and give my 30-second speech and not sweat, right? Like,
right.
What does it actually mean for you? So those are, I think, important questions to ask yourself to understand. I have this limiting belief. I don't even know what it means half the time, right? Like, so taking the time to figure that out will help you get rid of it.
Yeah. And I think all of these things, I don't know, I kind of picture limiting beliefs as like these in my head now, they're starting to show up as like balloons that keep like bumping me in the face every time I try to do something.
That's annoying.
Yeah, right. It is. And it's like getting in the way. But when I say these things, it's like every time I say it, there's a little less air in the balloon, right? Like whether it's the assumptions or whether it's speaking it out objectively to have a friend be like, well, that sounds absurd. Or even just speaking out loud to yourself and saying like, oh, well, when I say it out loud, like we want you to actually speak out loud. Don't just look at yourself in a mirror and think it. Like say the words out loud. Also, here's another one. Like when you consider the cost of maintaining the belief, if you're like, okay, I've had this belief for a long time, what has it cost me? For some, it might be I've not applied for the jobs I wanted. I'm not in the career I want. I'm in a marriage that I don't want to be in. And, we haven't talked a lot about the roots of some of these, and we will next week with our guests, but, the root of a lot of these is concerns about worthiness and not feeling like you're enough. Because, and we have talked about that in the past though. So this is sort of a higher level, and we've talked about this season, but those feelings of maybe I don't think I'm good enough to have a marriage that is happy. I don't think I'm good enough to take this risk, whatever it is. But what have I lost by believing this belief? Can be a different way of saying like, how is it helping me?
Yeah.
But like a scarier one.
Well, but it's also, I think, a very effective technique to help you understand why you want to let these limiting beliefs go. And let's be clear, it is not particularly easy to let go of limiting beliefs, right? Because they're typically not new. You've had them for a long time. You may not even realize you had them for a long time. You have to kind of work through the like whatever regret or shame you might have about having these limiting beliefs or what they've done to hinder your life. Like there's a lot to the process of letting go of limiting beliefs that I think we haven't even sort of broached some of that, but as you said, but those feelings of worthiness or lack of worthiness, I think oftentimes are masked in other things. So you have to really dig in to get to the point where you're like, oh, it's really about my self-worth, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times that's hidden in other things.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There's one more technique, and then we'll just talk a little bit about some positive things, but this is called downward arrow, and it's a cognitive therapy technique. And I just found this to be really interesting.
Yeah.
What a client, and this is speaking of like the root and like, I'm not worthy or I'm not enough. This is a way to get to the heart of that, even if you're working with yourself over this. So in the article, it talks about when a client shows signs of these self-limiting or negative beliefs in the way they talk about themselves, this is a way you can uncover it. So you can do this when you're talking to yourself. If that were true, what does that mean about you? So if you're thinking, yeah, I know what my limiting belief is, it says about it's this or it's that or it's whatever, you're looking at, I always picture it as like a big tree, and all these limiting beliefs are the leaves on the outside. And as we dig deeper, eventually we're going to get down to the root, and the root's usually the same. But when you keep saying like, what does that mean about you? It's a really effective way to figure out what is truly that underlying thing that allowed that limiting belief to take hold, to take root.
Yeah, and I think it like you're in the outline here, a lot of the examples have to do with a person who thinks that no one's going to date them because they're too short, which is bizarre, but I get it. Like we all have our things. I think it's bizarre to me because it's one of the few limiting beliefs I've never had. And I'm just like, wait, I missed one. Oh, fill my bingo card. But if you ask yourself that question, right, like it's going to get you to the point where you realize that you think no one's going to date you because you're not worthy of love, right? Like that's where you're going to end up if you keep asking that question, which sucks, but at least it gives you a place to work from.
Yeah. And so just let's end on a high note, I suppose. One of the great ways to combat limiting beliefs, once you've identified it, you've gotten to the root of it, and now you're like, great, I've been carrying it with me for 40 years. What do I do now? Because as you said, like you're not going to get rid of it overnight. It's not you can't kick it out of your backpack quite as quickly as you can some other things. And none of the stuff we talked about can you get out quickly, but like this is less than those. You can use positive affirmations to turn those self-limiting beliefs into positive self-beliefs. Now, what I will say is next week, our guest talks about some different ways to say those positive affirmations. I don't actually remember what she says, which is great for you because you can come back next week and listen to what she says. But I really loved what she said.
Yeah.
It's just a very long time ago that we recorded. So if you're telling yourself, that you're not good enough for a promotion, you can reframe that by saying, I'm a hard worker and I deserve success. And, I think that it's all part of the process of learning the difference between fact and fiction. And being a hard worker can be a fact, right? Like knowing that you've put in all of this time and you got your degrees and you've done all of these things and you do deserve that success. And it's like, I always think about Mr. Rogers, who says everyone's special and no one's special. And that's I love that concept, but you deserve it as much as everybody else who's done all those things. Like you're here, and those things are fact. Like the hard work that you've put in, that is a fact. The limiting belief is a fiction. It is a story. And it is one you believe. So it's going to take a lot of facts, but the more you I like that example because when I think sometimes with positive affirmations, it could just be, I deserve success without I am a hard worker. I am well qualified and I deserve success. Now, I don't think the I am enough or I am worthy need any caveats. I think those are just things that we need to learn that we are because we exist. But I think sometimes it's helpful with other positive affirmations to put some statistically relevant facts behind them, where it's like, I work really hard and that is going to bring me success. Right. And so I think that working on positive affirmations, I know this is one thing that I think this is the effect that this season will have on me because I used to be really good about them. And then I've taken a step back, but I have enjoyed talking about them a lot this year. And I need to figure out how I want to add them back into my life. I've used an app in the past. I've used an app where I read them to myself and then I would listen to it every morning when I got ready for my walk. I've used it where I've just journaled each day. So that's what I mean when I say I have to figure out how this will come back, which version I enjoyed or think I'll enjoy now. But positive affirmations can really go a long way because, as we've said over and over again, your brain believes what you tell it. And yes, if you've been telling it something for 40 years, it is going to take, or 30 years or 50 years, it's going to take a long time to undo that. But when you start having the universe and the world sort of reward you for that, when you start seeing the benefits, then your brain's it's going to take note and be like, oh, okay, I guess this is what we're doing now. We're going to believe that we deserve success. That's more fun than believing we don't deserve success.
A million times more fun.
So homework?
Yeah.
Okay. So homework, I think you know what I'm going to say, but let's do a brain dump of what we believe about ourselves. And this is going to take some time. So I think I'm good with that being the main homework. But what I would love to know is, and I'd love you to share it with us, or if you're feeling overwhelmed by the process, reach out to us, join our women's circle for support. But I would love to know what surprises you about that list. So this is a list that I want you to, either rip out a piece of paper and put it in your planner, or just put it in your journal, or whatever put it next to your grocery list. Have it so that, set a timer for 10 minutes and do a brain dump on what you believe about yourself. Start with positive things, please. But then carry it with you through the week. And as you notice things pop up, write those down and, see what you are surprised about. Because I think that you'll find that you're carrying some beliefs with you that you didn't realize that you were carrying with you this whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. Share it with us. You can tag us on social media at Go Boldly Together. You can send us an email. You can reach out to us on our website at goboldlyinitiative.com. You can join our women's circle, excuse me, which you can find on both on our website and on our social media. We would love to have you there. It is actually, I think, the perfect place to start addressing some of these things because you'll get that objective third party who mirrors it back to you. And it's like, that doesn't make a lot of sense. But you'll get it in a kind and loving way. Don't worry. And we would love to have you there. It's a cool place and we enjoy it. So I think that's it for this week. We'll be back next week, as Tova has said, with more on limiting beliefs, more season 11 for you. And until then, everyone, have a wonderful, wonderful week.
Thanks so much for listening to We Go Boldly podcast. We know you're busy and we love spending time with you.
If you enjoyed this week's episode, let us know. Head to Apple Podcasts right now to rate and review our show. While you're there, be sure to click that subscribe button.
Want more us time? Follow us on all the socials at Go Boldly Together.
Want even more us time? As in all the coaching pizzazz. Find us at goboldlyinitiative.com for all the info.
We will be back with more excitement, research, and deep thoughts next week.
Until then, keep on being the bold, brave, amazing people we know you already are.
The Power Moms Network, empowering moms to lift the world.